The voice of college football breaking down Bama, LSU, Death Valley. Does it get any better with the SEC Western Division control on the line? We got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line as well. So it doesn't get any better than that when you put it all together. Stephen, how you doing today?
Doing great, Mark. Like you mentioned, this is Alabama, LSU, and Death Valley. SEC West on the line, college football playoff implications. The first installment of those CFP rankings for this year came out on Tuesday. So a lot of things in this pot of gumbo right here. As when LSU is good, and Alabama's good, it makes for good football. It makes for good TV ratings.
What makes for good talk are the college football rankings, but fortunately for Alabama, it really doesn't matter. If they take care of business, they're going to be in good shape. They're in a place where, let's say if they were undefeated right now and they lost a game but did not get to the SEC championship game a la 2017, then there's that conversation. But they pretty much, now that they've lost a game, have to run the table, have to win the division, get to the SEC championship game. LSU's in an interesting spot because they have 2 early season losses, but they're on a nice roll and they could still factor in. And of course, they can control the division if they can pull off the upset at home on Saturday.
LSU has a chance to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. They can control the division, but also they can spoil Alabama's fun. And that's kind of what Brian Kelly wants to do anyway. I mean, you look at this Coach Kelly, this is his 3rd crack at trying to, defeat Coach Saban. He had a chance, 2 chances at Notre Dame, 2012 season where they go to the BCS title game and, fall, get blasted there 41-14. And then 2020 in the CFP in the COVID shortened year, you play against Alabama in the Rose Bowl down there in Texas and you lose 31-14. So here's a 3rd crack at it for Brian Kelly, who's now at LSU with a lot of talent down there in the Bayou. So he gets his 3rd crack at it.
All right, Jaden Daniels playing some really good football in recent weeks. He's a dynamic player. We already knew that coming from Arizona State, but a bit scattershot, can be inconsistent, but then he's put it together, and 11 touchdowns on his resume the past 2 outings against Florida, and then coming home in an impressive win against Ole Miss. Both teams coming off a bye. So talk about that Bama defense lining up against Jaden Daniels in particular.
Well, they're going to have to corral him. And this is a game where, Mark, we get a chance to see what did Alabama learn from the loss to Tennessee, because it did not bring enough pressure to Hendon Hooker. Several times that young man was able to sit back there in the pocket, pick Alabama's secondary apart, which is the reason why Tennessee, number 1 in the CFP rankings, Hendon Hooker by most number 1 in the Heisman conversation right now. So how does Alabama learn from the loss to Tennessee? How does it go about affecting Jaden Daniels? Because he can break contain in the pocket. He loves to keep plays alive with that athleticism. And as you mentioned, Mark, he has gotten better from the early regular season loss to Florida State. Daniels has gotten better. I remember after the FSU loss, there was a lot of dysfunction in the LSU locker room. Several players were like, do we really want to be here and be coached by Brian Kelly? One of those guys was Kayshon Boutte, who scrubbed a lot of the LSU stuff from his social media. But since then, it seems like Boutte has fallen in place there with Brian Kelly. And it also seems like he and Jaden Daniels have gotten some chemistry things worked out. So that connection has gotten better. But you also got Jeray Jenkins among some other weapons there that LSU has. So the big thing for Alabama's defensive front is getting your hands up in the air, affecting the passing lanes of Jaden Daniels, knock some balls down. Can it create some pressure from the inside? This is where guys like Jaheim Otis and DJ Dale, should they play? They did not play against Mississippi State. Both guys were in street clothes. Coach Saban talked about it. They're listed as day-to-day. They both practice Monday. They practice Tuesday also. So depending on how they feel by Saturday, both of those 2 should go possibly. But guys like Dale, Jaheim Otis, Byron Young, T.M. Smith, that interior front, we're not talking Will Anderson or Dallas Turner, but just the interior front, how will they collapse the pocket? How will they affect the throwing lanes of Daniels? Because when there's pressure on him, he can get erratic, but can Alabama get that pressure and sustain it from Pete Golding dialing it up? That's the big question.
Because back to the wide receiver room there at LSU, people, if you're looking for big numbers, you're not going to find it here because, as Steven just outlined and I talked about, they have just gotten on track here in the last few weeks, but it is a loaded wide receiver room. We're talking about a top 5 wide receiver room with Neighbors and Booty, Jenkins, Brian Thomas. These guys can all, they are freak shows that for an Alabama secondary that struggled this year, that has to be the one place that you point to first where you think LSU has to have an advantage.
That's one place, Mark. And then, for Alabama, it comes down to number one, the emergence of Eli Ricks. I mean, fans have been wondering this whole season, where is number 7, the transfer from LSU? We haven't seen him all year. And then finally, against Mississippi State, Saban decides to pull it, puts Eli Ricks out there as a starter opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry, and you can see why this young man is special. I mean, you can see why he has the length that he has, the wingspan that he has. You saw why he was a coveted 5-star in the 2020 class from Mater Dei High School in California. And Ricks forcing 5 incompletions, 4 pass breakups, was just separating wide receivers from the football. And the big thing Coach Saban talked about today in the SEC coaches teleconference was for Ricks, he doesn't have to feel like he's got to be Superman in this game. You're going down to face your old team, your old program where you were a freshman All-American in 2020, but you don't have to be all world in this game. Do your job, handle your responsibility, and trust that the guys around you on the back end will do theirs. So Eli Ricks, how does he play? But then also, how does Kool-Aid McKinstry play as the other boundary corner? He's grown in these last few matchups. He really has. And LSU could put Keishon Butte on Kool-Aid McKinstry. They can try and attack that matchup right there. How does McKinstry look? How does Brian Branch look in this game? Because he's a guy that not only can cover and stop the run, but Alabama's been using him in a lot of these blitz packages here lately from his slot corner position. Will they choose to blitz Branch a lot? Can he get home on Jayden Daniels and creating that pressure? So you look at Ricks, you look at Kool-Aid McKinstry, you also look at Brian Branch. It's just those 3 guys in particular for me where this secondary is concerned, because after what Josh Heupel was able to draw up there with Jalen Hyatt, you kind of feel like LSU's looking at that, like, can we take something from that and maybe use that? So Branch, Ricks, Kool-Aid McKinstry, the 3 DBs I would have my eye on.
In my own words, got to get there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on YouTube with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. You see him right here. He hosts this show. In my own words, it's a great watch, a great listen, and take part. Give him a call. It's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on YouTube at 6 Central Time. Stephen, I think one of the other reasons why LSU has developed the offensive side of the ball as well is really in that opener against Florida State, they had no running back to go to. It was all on Jayden Daniels. It's not just a passer, but a runner. We thought John Emery would be that main back because he was so highly touted coming out of high school and has gained experience the last couple of years. But it's guys like Josh Williams and Armani Goodwin that have shouldered the load. So they're much better at the running back position as a supplement to what Daniels can do.
Absolutely. And Armani Goodwin, this is a young man that came out of Hewitt-Trustfield High School, right, Alabama, Birmingham area. And it's incredible how his recruitment came down to Alabama, Auburn, and LSU. And for him to take the Tigers of LSU and what he has done this year for that program, Goodwin, you talk about the speed is there, the vision is there, the power is there, the cutback ability. He's got more contact balance than I thought he had. Does not go down with one guy. He's got moves when the ball gets into his hands. So the offensive line for LSU has definitely gotten better in blocking for him and setting the stage for him. And that has taken a lot of that pressure there off Jayden Daniels. And then, Mark, the big thing here for Alabama in this game, how do they come out of the tunnel, right? Because against Tennessee, Coach Saban talked about it. There was no chanting. There was no really, the mental focus wasn't quite there. Was Alabama fully prepared for that game? You could say probably not. Did the crowd noise play a big factor in shaking up Alabama? Probably so, just due to when you look at the Tennessee team that had not beaten Alabama in 15 years, there was a lot of pent up anger there, a lot of pent up aggression at Neyland Stadium, and they were kind of ready to let that out, so to speak. So here comes Death Valley, a place where Les Miles once said opponents' dreams come to die. And you go in there at 6 o'clock, it's a night game. What will be the mental focus of Alabama coming out of the tunnel, understanding that you can't lose another football game? Another loss, you're out of the CFP. Another loss, you're probably out of a New Year's Six Bowl. So, what's going to be the mental focus here for the Tide and trying to not only beat LSU, but also take the Tiger crowd out of the ball game, which it's going to be electric from kickoff.
We've got Stephen M. Smith on the line from Touchdown, Alabama. Join him on his show right here on YouTube. It's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In my own words, 6 Central Time. Get there. Give Stephen a listen. Talking Bama, talking the SEC in this huge matchup against LSU. After a couple of years off, I think LSU's defense got its swag back. Harold Perkins is... He's a freak. They've got length. They've got size. They've got athleticism like we expect LSU to have. And, set that matchup for us with the Alabama offense.
LSU's got all of those things, Mark, but they also they got the attack in them. They got the attack in them. They got the mindset of we're going to take your head off. And this is what they had with guys like with guys in the past, the Bo Pelini's in the past, with the John Chavises in the past, even the Dave Arandas in the past. They just take your head off. And when I look at this Alabama offensive line, they have a challenge in front of it. Number one, protecting Bryce Young. And Young, the last couple of weeks here, dealing with the sprained AC joint in his throwing shoulder. Now, of course, he's 100% now. Bryce talked about it on Monday. He feels a lot better now than what he did against Arkansas and Texas A&M, Tennessee, and, of course, Mississippi State. But this offensive line got to hold up consistently here in the pocket. Also, this is a big game for Bill O'Brien in terms of game planning, scheme, strategy, having his best play calls for this matchup. Because if you really dissect it, a lot of Bryce Young's best plays have come off script this season where he's running around, he's Houdini out there, he eludes 9-10 defenders while he's directing the receiver to either the back part of the end zone or somewhere on the route and gets rid of the football, kind of like the magic bean ordeal here. So as great as he is with the wizardry that he plays with, that's the reason why Bryce Young is looked at as more than likely the number one quarterback to be taken in next year's draft and possibly the number one overall pick. As an offensive coordinator, you can't have that man just work that hard. You got to have some type of scheme, system, game plan in place to where you can have those easy throws. You give wide receivers the route concepts where they can work back to him and catch the football, get up and down the field and make those plays. So as much as it is on the offensive line to protect Bryce Young and establish these backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jace McClellan and company, but also for Bill O'Brien, having his best play calls in this matchup to see, can I take advantage of an LSU defense that's got that attacking style back, but can I get them on their heels a bit early and often here in this matchup?
How has this wide receiver core progressed throughout the season?
It's kind of been wide receiver by committee. Alabama does not have that one guy that you could just go to the well to consistently. It's not like you have a Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, a Calvin Ridley, a Judy, a Ruggs, a Smith, a Waddle. Even last year when you had Jamison Williams and John Mechie, two consistent guys, it's basically who wants to take it on any given week. And while that's, great for Alabama in terms of the defense that you're playing against, it doesn't know who's going to step up at any moment. But the catch-22 is, Bryce Young and this Alabama team, they don't know who's going to step up at any given moment. So that's the crazy part. One day it could be Jermaine Burton. One day it could be Trayshawn Holden. One day it could be Ja'Cory Brooks. One day it could be one of these few freshmen, that being a Kobe Prentice or an Isaiah Bond. You really don't know. And now that Tyler Harrell got himself inserted into his debut against Mississippi State, and how much healthier he's gotten, it could be a Tyler Harrell show. So you really don't know. It's truly wide receiver by committee, as Jahmyr Gibbs is actually the leading receiver with 24 catches on the year, if I'm not mistaken, on that statistic. So for Bama this week, the receiver core, when the ball's in the air, catch the football. That's the big thing. Catch the football. Bama has suffered with quite a few drops this year. I definitely want to see Cameron Latu at tight end get more involved. He actually had a good game against Tennessee, but Alabama has not gone to him consistently the way that Saban would like to.
Yeah, that's certainly been my thought process as I've watched Bama start to go through the SEC has been, okay, who's going to step up at wide receiver? Oh, Kobe Prentice. He's had a nice game against Tennessee. Maybe he's going to take off. Oh, maybe not. Well, Isaiah Bond. Oh, he had a big catch downfield against Arkansas. Maybe no. Okay. We don't see him the next
game. Mark, against Vanderbilt, Ja'Cory Brooks had 117 yards, a couple touchdowns. I'm like, okay, Brooks, here he is. And the next game, you're like, Ja'Cory drops 3 passes. So it's just one of those where Bryce Young is literally staring at the wide receiver room. Can somebody just consistently help me? I mean, that's what Bryce Young is looking at. Can somebody please just consistently help me, especially after 2021, where you had a Jameson Williams that was right there every single week. Unfortunately, got hurt in the national championship game. You had a John Mechie that was there every single week. People like to poke fun at Slade Bolden, but I give Slade this. He was there every single week. So that's what Bryce Young is calling for this group of wideouts. Who's going to be there every single week that I'm letting go of this football?
So, Stephen, I asked the question that you may have already answered, but I always love the personnel breakdown from you. Who are those wild card X factors on this team for this game?
The wild card X factors, number one, I just brought him up. I just brought him up, and I'm going to bring 2 up. Tyler Harrell and JoJo Earl. I think those 2 have big speed. I mean, Isaiah Bond has it too. Kobe Prentice has it too. But you brought Tyler Harrell into Tuscaloosa for a reason. I mean, he averaged near 30 yards a catch last year at Louisville. The guy's got that type of speed that Jameson Williams had just a season ago. And now healthy, is there a scenario where we can finally see him more on the field, even just as a decoy to draw attention away from other guys? You got to have Tyler Harrell out there in the field. JoJo Earl is healthier out there. He's got that type of speed. You got to have him out there. So I look at those 2 guys. Another X factor to me would be Jace McClellan, in my opinion. And is there a situation where Bill O'Brien draws this up? You've got McClellan and Gibbs on the field at the same time, where you could fake it to McClellan, have Gibbs on a wheel route, have Gibbs on a screen, or fake it to Gibbs and pound it up the middle with McClellan. Because McClellan talked about earlier this season, yeah, Gibbs has got the speed, but I got the power here. So McClellan could be a little bit of an X factor. Defensively, if I had to give an X factor on that side of the ball, I mean, I would look at Brian Branch, just due to all he can do defensively. He can cover, he can play the run, he can shoot the gap and create pressure to the quarterback. So that there are multiple X factors in this game. It just comes down to, are they put in a situation where they can be at their absolute best? Are they put in a situation, in a moment where they can be their absolute best on the field?
Brian Branch, 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, coming in with 45 tackles, 3rd on the team. I'll leave us with this one because this comes to mind as well. There are some folks out there wondering on a large scale, where's Will Anderson? Because they're not seeing the jaw-dropping, eye-popping statistics. But how would you evaluate Will Anderson's play this year?
I evaluate it like this. Because of what he did a season ago and the jaw-dropping numbers he put up, of course, every offensive coordinator is saying, I'm not letting that guy beat me. I'm going to double team him. I'm going to use a tight end or a running back to chip. We're going to scheme away from his side. We're not letting 31 beat us. Now, of course, when you're a dominant player, you still want to find ways to affect the game. And Will, at points, has found ways to affect the game, but against Tennessee, didn't have his best showing out there on the field. He knows that, and he's going to try to elevate his game against LSU. But when you have a guy that's that dominant, but other guys are chipping on him, this is where somebody else has got to get free and take on that ownership. Whether that's Dallas Turner, you got to get free. Chris Braswell, Henry To'o, Byron Young, other guys in that defensive front. When 31 is being double teamed and triple teamed, somebody has to be able to say, I'm getting home here. They're taking it, they're handling the wheel. Here's my chance to eat. They're not letting Will get the fried chicken. There's extra fried chicken here for me, and I got to go out there and get that. So who is taking on that moniker of I'm going out there to get it? That's the picture. That's the focus.
Fried chicken could be a possibility in the press box. Are you making the trip to Death Valley?
I am making the trip, Mark, to Death Valley. Fried chicken could possibly be in there, but I wouldn't be opposed to some shrimp. I wouldn't be opposed to some beignets. I wouldn't be opposed to a little gumbo in there as well.
That's what they major in down there on the bayou. Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right here on YouTube. Get there in my own words. Stephen, we always appreciate you breaking things down for us.
Absolutely, Mark. You guys take care.